Containing strong language, Donal MacIntyre concludes his investigation into the psyche of gangland Britain by examining the thriving underworld of organised crime in Glasgow.
I don't think there is such a thing as a good criminal. You know, good criminals are the ones that don't get caught, isn't it?
12 years ago, this man walked free from Glasgow's most notorious gangland murder. He had taken on the city's ruling crime family and seemingly got away with it. The stage was set for one of the longest-running gangland feuds in Britain. It's a story of raw revenge and hit jobs. We have spent 6 months getting close to this man to uncover the fight to rule Britain's most murderous city, where only the ruthless survive.
Yes! Fuck the coppers!
Mayhem in Glasgow this weekend. I'm Russell Walker with Clyde One News. 5 people have been murdered in the city over the weekend.
It is related to an ongoing dispute in the East End over the control of drugs empires. Strathclyde police are describing this weekend's wave of violence as one of the worst on record.
Glasgow's homicide rate is the highest in Western Europe, twice that of London and even greater than New York. It's a city plagued by long-running gangland feuds, where conspiracies run wild and memories are long. Through the eyes of a notorious crime mastermind, we reveal Glasgow's brutal underworld. He may look like an accountant, but gangster Paul Ferris is one of the most feared men in Scotland. He has been a hitman, drug dealer and gunrunner, and has carried out shootings, stabbings, kneecappings and scalpings.
People started calling you the robot because anything that I was ever asked to do, I went and done it.
You're very efficient.
I like to think it was efficient. I was being given orders as much as somebody would be given a shopping list to go and collect the shopping. You know, you treated it purely as business.
So you kind of born into a kind of lifestyle where you completely disassociate emotionally from the crimes you do.
Business, that's all it was.
Just business?
Just business.
And the minute you pull the trigger, you put that knife in.
Business.
Business.
That's all it
Forgot
was.
it. How do you feel about being described as a kind of efficient operator, debt collector, enforcer, efficient killer?
The emotional aspect of it is to achieve the goals in which people actually ask you to sit out and do it. There's a guy who had been stabbed in relation to threats that were alleged to have been made by him, that he was out to avenge something.
And did you stab him?
Yeah, I did, yeah. But it turned out the information was not accurate. That's something that I reflect back on and say that he was a casualty.
The occasional blunder was an occupational hazard, but it only served to enhance Ferris's reputation. His violent exploits became legendary on the streets of Glasgow's East End. Paul Ferris's criminal apprenticeship came in the 1970s on Glasgow's hard streets. He learned from a young age that the knife is a powerful weapon, an equalizer.
This is me getting into Hugging Field Street where I actually stayed for many a year. Number 19 over there, up the top.
Was this a base for a lot of your activities?
It nearly is, yeah. But I had to move because there's too much aggravation at my mum's house.
So you were bringing trouble to the police home to your mum?
Police to the door, and it was totally unacceptable.
Now, your dad was in prison. What was he in prison for?
Bank robbery. The bank that he robbed was in Ridley, and because Berlin was in close proximity, most of the prison officers' wages get paid in there.
I never got paid that day because my dad nicked all the money. They thought that was quite funny. You know, any time I went in as a juvenile and my name got called out in reception, it was, "Is that Willie's boy?" And then you get the older screws coming in going, "I remember your fucking dad, he stole our wages." I had a lot of happy times there, growing up, until the bullying aspect started. Just changed my whole life completely. Made me into somebody who was very vengeful, always remembered bad things that happened to me.
Paul was systematically bullied at school. He waited until he was 17 and then unleashed his bloody revenge on one of his tormentors.
Got him in a headlock and took a knife across his forehead and scalped him.
And so all the skin from his forehead peeled off?
Yeah.
What, it must have been a horrific sight. Did it bother you?
It never bothered me. It bothered his mother because he went screaming up to the house and she held him out the window until the ambulance arrived to stop the blood from going all over the house. Obviously an impact on his mother.
What impact does that have on you?
None. It's self-satisfaction.
Ferris's reputation for cruelty without remorse brought him to the attention of the East End godfather, Arthur Thompson, who took him under his wing.
Yeah, that's a Thompson, the household there. First and last houses. The best advice my dad ever gave me was never to get involved with Thompson. I knew better, or I thought I did. It turns out my dad was right, the rest of the family was right, and I was wrong.
John.
How you doing, mate?
How you doing? Pleased to meet you. Pleased to come in. Yeah, come on.
Paul Ferris quickly impressed the godfather. He became Thompson's most feared debt collector and enforcer. His exploits earned him the nicknames the Wee Man, Lucky, and the Robot.
This is the kind of final one that I did, sort of.
Excellent. Well, it's probably one of very few that I would identify as Arthur Thompson, Senior, who in real terms was the last godfather.
Yeah.
Everybody's always got a nickname. The Last Godfather, Jimmy the Hammer, you know, and the Penguin, the Licensee. One of the most derogatory ones I've ever heard of was Brian the Tosser Meakin. You know, basically saying he's a wanker. He'd probably be called a wanker myself, but never in that context. A reporter had described me in court as a weasel-faced crook with a cunning beyond his years. You know, so...
That's what I was trying to portray in this.
I think it's important that if we're going to create a kind of rogues gallery, and I should be included in the rogues gallery.
When Glasgow's godfather died in 1993, Paul Ferris was seen as the natural heir to the crime empire. But one man stood in his way. Tam, the licensee McGraw. Reg McKay has been reporting on Glasgow's gangsters for over 10 years.
This is Thomas McGraw, known as a licensee, in a rare public outing. He's attending the funeral of one of his hitmen who'd been knifed to death in his own patch the year before. He's called a licensee because he remarkably escapes conviction, investigation, prosecution for a wide range of offences, has done for well over 20 years. It's part of the trade-off. That's why he's called a licensee, licensed to commit crime.
The Underworld believes that in return for informing on fellow criminals, the police have afforded McGraw a degree of immunity. An official inquiry in 1996 cleared Strathclyde police of these charges, but the rumours persist. Despite being a major figure linked to organised crime, McGraw has not had a significant conviction in over 20 years. This is a rare sighting of McGraw in 1988, when he was cleared of running an international drug smuggling ring. That same year, Paul Ferris was sentenced to 10 years for gun running. With Ferris behind bars, it's alleged that McGraw took control of Glasgow's multi-million-pound drugs empire.
He has every right to be afraid about being taken out. He probably has more enemies in Glasgow than anybody else.
Ferris and McGraw have a history. In the 1980s, they both worked with the godfather, Arthur Thompson. but an act of treachery tore them apart. Ferris believes Tam McGraw had a hand in the gangland killings of his two closest friends.
The licence coverage that McGraw's got himself, it can only extend to not going to prison. It doesn't extend it not going to hospital.
In January 2002, Paul Ferris, the heir apparent to Glasgow's East End crime empire, was released from prison for gun running. In his absence, Tam, the licensee McGraw, had become Scotland's richest criminal. The stage was set for the two sworn enemies to go face to face, Ferris versus McGraw. Since Ferris's return to Glasgow, war has erupted on the streets of the East End. With the death toll rising, the licensee looks increasingly vulnerable.
He did have a driver, a minder, a bodyguard who were killed. Then he went on another recruitment programme and got another minder, bodyguard and driver who were shot. Who knows, third time lucky.
That next time they might get McGraw instead of the driver and the minder.
Yeah.
Tam, the licensee McGraw, is said to be worth £20 million, but his life is under constant threat. The licensee surrounds himself with bodyguards, often wears bulletproof vests, and rarely leaves his fortified villa. He chose not to speak to us.
How much would it cost to kill Tam McGraw?
As far as finances would be concerned, there are people that would do that for nothing.
Quality?
Quality people that would do that for nothing.
Shot me.
Over the last 2 years, Mark Clinton has been implicated in several murders of McGraw's henchmen. Clinton has been charged with stabbing one of McGraw's most trusted lieutenants 27 times.
Just a long knife. Shuts back up. It's better to have it than not to have it. Yeah. You never know the moment this place.
Even in the 21st century, knives are the weapon of choice in Glasgow. Violence here is personal and intimate.
That was just a couple of marks for the machete attack.
So how many of those wounds did you have?
15 or something like that. 15? Just slash marks there.
What did you say to them when they were slashing you? You said...
Just tell them better make sure I've not got a pulse left when they leave me.
How many murders have the police called you in on?
4, maybe 5, the past 2 years.
What's it like to stab a man?
When you're in that life, you don't... It's nothing. It's nothing. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. If you're in that situation, me personally, any time I've been fighting with somebody with a knife, it's just been try and stab them as many times as possible. You get them done before anything happens to you. Stabbed somebody once and it hurt a bone in the knife. The blade of the knife broke. It must have hit quite a hard bone. And I think it was not much force that the actual blade snapped.
On the 24th of September 2002, the first of McGraw's henchmen was fatally stabbed.
Sheelan Bar. Gordon Ross, one of the McGraw's henchmen as well. He was stabbed to death and lay there bleeding. An hour and a half later, he was found by a passing police car lying on the pavement just outside the bar, stabbed to death several times. People were shocked when Gordon Ross was killed here in East End, middle of his own territory. To be taken out in this way, right here in one of his locals, yeah,
I think the licensee would have been very, very worried at that point and wondered what the hell was going to happen next.
This is Billy McPhee. Billy McPhee was an other henchman, hitman for McGraw. Close associate of Gordon Ross. The two of them carried out many, many jobs together.
How many murders would this man be responsible for?
He's never been convicted of murder, but to my information, he's seen off at least 6 people, usually with a knife. Some months earlier, McPhee had been shot in the face in one of his regular haunts, and this was his first time out from that injury, serious injury to his jaw. He felt quite vulnerable,
So an attempt had already been made at his life?
Yeah, you know, if the gun had been of a higher calibre, he'd have been dead. McPhee had been told at that funeral that he was next. And when you see McPhee, I mean, it's a picture of a dead man walking.
Billy the Iceman McPhee had a reputation as a brutal hitman and major drug dealer. In 1998, McGraw and McPhee both walked free from court where they faced drugs charges. He was believed to be one of the licensee's most trusted associates.
This is where Billy McPhee met his end. Shortly after the funeral of Gordon Ross, they decided to take in a Rangers game and a rugby match. He survived the Rangers match. He didn't survive the rugby match, unfortunately.
This is the Middle East territory. He felt safe, he felt secure, he was relaxed, and all of a sudden, individual with his head covered walks into the pub, straight up to Billy McPhee and stabbed him in what can only be described as a bloody frenzy. Stab wounds went to his neck, his head, his legs, his arms, his arse, his genitals. 27 wounds. Horrible, bloody murder.
McPhee, said to have been a close associate of crime boss Tam the licensee McGraw, was rushed to hospital but died shortly after.
It's related to an ongoing dispute in the East End over the control of drugs empires.
The knifeman made no attempt to hide his face. He was wearing a grey hooded top and jeans.
So far, no arrests have been made, but detectives say that justice will be done.
In the middle of a packed family pub, diners witnessed a savage and personal attack on McPhee. He was stabbed in the eyes and the throat. Getting justice was always going to be a difficult task. Although the pub was full, few witnesses came forward. The CCTV was said to be broken, and sources have told us that blood and hair, other people's DNA, was scattered across the scene by the killer to put the police off the scent.
Since you've come out in 2002, some of McGraw's henchmen have been killed.
Yeah.
Are you responsible?
No.
Do you know who is?
Probably, yeah.
Are you going to tell me?
No.
The frenzied attack on McPhee seemed to fit the style of one man, and within weeks, Mark Clinton, already implicated in other attacks on the licensee's gang, was charged with murder.
I think the reason I was put in was because they narrowed it down to so many people that would brazenly walk into a pub and follow a full gang of so-called enemies and take the main man out in front of his pals. So they've done that. Well, there's only maybe 2 or 3 people in a full city that have done that. They've maybe went through and they've done that right. One of them's in prison. One of them was here. Where was he? So it's got to have been him. Because the other 2 are accounted for. He's no. And we know that that's his style. He'll not go into a pub with a big army. He'll just walk in his cell, do what he's got to do and walk out.
Clinton, by his own admission, has a short fuse.
Stabbed a guy 5 times and slashed another one for being cheating my father. But I've had a lot of knife wounds. But all that showed you on camera was like, it looks as though I'm punching the guy and he's behind. But I wasn't, I was sticking a lot back up his ass. I'm giving up about 5 times or something. But the blood was about that one. And it went right into the horn 5 times. And when I got back up and his palm was done, I just like kind of drew my horn across his stomach and it's just opened wide open.
walking down the street minding my own affair.
Mark Clinton's trial started a year after McPhee's death. If found guilty, Clinton would be facing life behind bars.
The cops took me to a little room where the bright light shines.
Under cross-examination, the eyewitnesses' evidence crumbled. With no conclusive forensics, the case collapsed. Mark Clinton was unexpectedly free.
14 months of police harassment for nothing. Convicted me of murder. And the lure wasn't me. Try to convict me of murder. Yes! Fuck the coppers! I'm very relieved. I've had 14 months of a nightmare hanging over my head. And I've had 3 attempts on my own life where I was given bail. Through, but the police would have been as well painting a target on my back and my forehead and just saying, on you go, kill him. But I'm a very relieved man that justice has been seen to done today. And I've been acquitted for murdering William McPhee.
When that murder trial collapsed, the police made no announcement. Strathclyde police often make no announcement. And the message they send is, we had the right man, we just couldn't get a conviction.
It's impossible to prove, but Mark Clinton claims that Tam, the licensee McGraw, approached him outside the High Court and made him an unbelievable offer.
I was told that if I set Paul Ferris up to be murdered, that person would make sure that I worked for Billy McPhee's murder.
And who told you that?
Mr. McGraw. And he says if I didn't set Mr. Ferris up, there would be witnesses coming in that hadn't came forward already. And that they know it was definitely me that done it.
What was your reaction?
And I phoned a taxi and got in a taxi and I phoned Paul Ferris and told him.
It was alleged to have been put to him that McGraw can get Mark Clinton an out if he's prepared to set me up. Comes as no surprise. It's not the first time I've heard that, it certainly won't be the last either.
Who else was with McGraw that day?
A fella, Craig Devlin and Joker McCartney, and the next day the two of them were shot in the Royal Oak. Craig Devlin and fella McCartney.
Detectives are waiting to question 2 men gunned down in broad daylight outside a Glasgow bar. 41-year-old John McCartney is critically hurt, and Craig Devlin, who's 31, is in a serious condition in hospital. It's understood businessman Tam, the licensee McGraw, rushed the pair to hospital in his car following the shooting in Nitshill Road.
This was a typical gangland Glasgow hit. Busy pub Thursday afternoon, full of, normal people having a quiet drink. Door swings open, nobody pays any attention. It's February, it's cold. Guy's got a hood up. He looks round the room, sees his targets, straight up to them. He knows they're wearing bulletproof vests. That means they're protected from there. Shoots them low, shoots them the genitals, shoots them the thighs, shoots them several times. Standard Glasgow issue is what they call the Glasgow send-off. Even if you've killed somebody, it's quite common here to shoot them once up the arse. It's an insult as well as a very lethal shot.
And typical Glasgow, the pub was packed, but guess what?
No witnesses. Nobody was here.
Miraculously, they survived. But just days after the shootings, the pub, a well-known Underworld headquarters, was burnt down. The elusive Tam, the licensee McGraw, had a narrow escape.
Were you surprised to learn that McGraw was with Devlin and McCartney when they were shot at the Royal Oak?
Was I surprised? Yeah. Yes. Quite a big surprise as it happens. As I said to you before, I'm sure that if the people who committed that offence knew McGraw was there, I don't think McCartney and Devlin would have got shot.
Who would have got shot?
McGraw.
But McGraw was at the toilet at the time.
Don't know, I heard that he took a 9.9 dive under the pool table. Whether that's true or not is another matter.
And Devlin and McCartney, are they associates of McGraw, so to speak?
They're associates to an extent. They're commonly known as the snitches bitches, which means that they will do his bidding for them, despite the fact that it's generally accepted that everybody knows what McGraw is. So anybody that's collaborating with McGraw are tarred with the same brush, and quite rightly so.
I get a sense that you might know more about that day than you're letting on.
Our contacts are very good.
I think the police would probably like the public to perceive me as some gangland villain that's got money or that, but if I'm not a gangland villain that's got money, I fucking wouldn't be sitting trying to paint my own house and straighten the wallpaper. I feel like a prison warder, don't I? I must have about 12 sets of keys for different houses all over Glasgow. I've made it a point that I don't stay in the same house 2 nights in a row. I'll not go and meet anybody. A lot of people maybe say you're paranoid and all the rest of it, but it's happened before, and so many murders through the years that people have been enticed there with their own meant-to-be friends. They've been enticed to a place or a meeting or whatever, so I just make it a point of not going to meet anybody. And I've had to change my routine now. I don't stay, as I say, I don't stay in the same house 2 nights in a row. I've always had the attitude, but it's for you's not going to get by you, so if there's something going to happen, it's going to happen. Nobody will be able to stop it, apart from myself.
By the mid-80s, Paul Ferris had become one of the most feared hitmen in Scotland. He was working for Glasgow's ruling crime boss. Arthur Thompson and his son had grown rich on the heroin trade.
I travelled on this road 20 years ago when I was on the run for several attempted murders.
The route to the bloody feud that has erupted in Glasgow goes back 20 years. It's a story of betrayal and treachery. At the time, Ferris and his now mortal enemy McGraw were both working with Arthur Thompson. But in the winter of 1984, all that changed. Ferris's work as a brutal enforcer for the Godfather was bringing the unwelcome attention of the police. Wanted in connection with over a dozen murders, the 21-year-old gratefully accepted sanctuary in the Thompson family holiday home in Rossi, Isle of Bute. That evening, as Ferris and his heavily pregnant wife settled in, police helicopters were flying up the Clyde towards them. Ferris believes that Arthur Thompson's son, Fat Boy, had set him up. The police found a bag of heroin, along with a large bundle of used banknotes and a cache of weapons in the flat.
Do you think a member of the Thompson family shopped you?
Without a doubt. And I genuinely think it was Arthur Jr. The police are investigating 13, 14 attempt murders. And the 13, 14 attempt murders are in relation to recovery of £50,000. I was going out and down things on reflection, look back now. It's inconceivable it was me that was doing that, but it was. I take full responsibility for what was done. I thought it was an exercise that you go through to prove your worth to these people, and then you're brought into the fold, but it wasn't like that.
Ferris never worked for the Thompsons again. 5 years later, an attempt was made on the Godfather's life. He told the police that Paul Ferris had repeatedly tried to run him over.
Looking back on a track for a little greenback. Got the fines as the kind of losing my mind.
A year later, Arthur Fatboy Thompson, the Godfather's son, out on weekend release from prison, was at the gang's headquarters, the Proven Mill Inn, brandishing a hit list.
Arthur Thompson Jr. Was near enough finished his sentence. His then wife picked him up, and instead of going back to the house, which he would probably miss sexual relationships with a wife, he decided that he was heading into the city centre to buy a shoulder holster and powder, gunpowder, to make up a whole series of bullets. I believe that he bought that and then was in the Proven Mill Inn bragging about this list. It was like a hear ye declaration on this is his hit list. I was fourth on the list. There was about 12, I don't know. He's obviously playing up to the Gangster Chronicles.
How soon after his declaration of the hit list, which you were on, did he get killed?
What, 4 hours.
4 hours.
The first bullet caught Fatboy on the cheek. The second smashed into his ribs, puncturing a lung. The third pierced his anus. It was the ultimate insult to the Godfather. Ferris was charged with the attempted murder of Thompson Sr. and the murder of his son, Fatboy. He also faced charges of supplying heroin, cocaine and ecstasy, illegal possession of a firearm, and kneecapping. Thompson Sr. sought to avenge his son's death. War was declared in Glasgow. Blood would flow. Retribution was duly delivered on the day of Fatboy's funeral.
Very famous bar. Once belonged to Bobby Glover. Paul Ferris is in jail, accused of Fatboy's murder. And his two closest friends, Bobby Glover, and the third of the amigos, Joe Hanlon, were found dead here in the car, shot through the head, outside Bobby's own pub. Big insult, big insult. But worse than that was that very day, Fatboy's funeral cortege would pass by where the bodies had been dumped.
They were very close friends of mine. There was a lot of speculation flying about that because I'd been involved in the murder of Fatboy Thompson, they must have been involved in the murder of Fatboy Thompson.
If you wanted to hurt Paul Ferris at that time in 1991, one easy way to do it would be to hurt his two very, very close friends. They weren't just business associates, they were tight, they were very, very close.
And they
friends.
weren't just hurt, they were executed.
It was a definite execution, it wasn't even a hit. They had been taken by force, put in a situation and summarily executed, bullets through the head.
Ferris believes McGraw was behind the death of his friends. Despite no concrete evidence, it's widely rumoured that McGraw arranged for the corpses to be laid out in a Glasgow pub for Thompson Sr. to view before they were dumped in a car.
It was a symbolic killing. The murders of Bobby and Joe have never been solved and never will be solved. But it's well known that Thomas McGraw had a hand in it, seemingly to try and buy a favour with Thompson, the Godfather. At the time, Paul Ferris and Bobby and Joe were deemed to be the up-and-coming chiefs. They were going to take over. All very capable in their different ways.
And have the deaths of Glover and Hanlon been avenged?
Time is a great source of vengeance, isn't it? In the sense that loads of folk involved have since met tragic ends, but they're involved in organised crime anyway, and it's a chance all of these guys take.
Till the end of time.
Arthur Thompson never recovered from his son's murder and 18 months later died of a fatal heart attack.
Long as there's a spring, a bird to sing, I'll go on.
The funeral of Glasgow's last godfather was attended by gangsters from all over the UK.
Till the end of time.
One man who was noted for his absence was the godfather's one-time protege, Paul Ferris.
My love for you.
Thompson's crime empire was now up for grabs. But who would seize the godfather's crown? The names on everyone's lips were Ferris and McGraw.
Arthur Thompson Sr. Appeared as a prosecution witness at the trial in 1992 and gave evidence against me in 1992. I had the utmost respect for that man and his family until he appeared in the witness box and gave his evidence. I was shocked, could not believe it. It transpires that he had been collaborating with authorities for numerous amount of years. So when he died, their apparent was obviously going to be somebody who was engaging with the authorities, and that wasn't me. But it turned out to be Tam McGraw, the licensee.
Cleared of the murder of the godfather's son, Ferris would become a legend in the underworld. The media nicknamed him Lucky.
So you feel you've done nothing at all to leave you in fear of your life? No retributions from anyone else that's been in this case?
But Ferris's lucky run was to be short-lived. Just 5 years later, he was back behind bars, this time for gun running.
Oh, the shock has pretty teeth.
With Ferris brooding in prison, McGraw was now free to pick up the remnants of the Thompson crime empire. But when Ferris was released in January 2002, the underworld braced itself.
You're a man who's always regarded as saying you never forget, and that eventually vengeance will be yours. Have you put vengeance and revenge behind, or is that, are you still waiting for your biding your time with various people?
I would like to think that I have put it behind me, but it's like one of these situations. If you come across somebody that you've not seen for quite a while, and there's issues still to be addressed, this is where the grey area comes into it. Have you got enough self-control to leave it at that, or are you actively going to do something about it? Now, there's a difference between sitting and plotting and planning to wreak revenge on that. I've got no time for sitting, plotting and planning. The only plotting and planning I'm doing is constructive.
When the shark bites with his teeth dead, scarlet billows.
Since Paul Ferris is released from prison, 5 of McGraw's henchmen have been the target of gangland hits. Most of the crimes remain unsolved.
There's not a trace of red.
Ferris himself is not immune to threats.
Sunday morning.
The man with the big reputation claims it's a risk he's learned to live with.
Someone sneaking around the corner. Is there someone Macintyres?
I mean, you've got a long memory. Think of the people who you've done damage to on behalf of others in the criminal world, on behalf of your own kind of motives when you were at it. Somebody made an attempt in your life you wouldn't do with a...
Somebody made an attempt in my life. I'd act on it. If I get information that somebody's of a mind to wreak some sort of violence against me, of course I will react.
Wouldn't go to the police and dial 999?
No.
Wouldn't say, I need help?
I don't deal with the police. I've never dealt with the police. We always had a kind of an unwritten rule that we deal with our own problems. We deal with the punishment aspect. What punishment fits the crime that had been done against us. And if somebody's silly enough to make an attempt, or in worst cases, somebody actually been given some money to go and commit an offence against me, I've had a variety of different people coming back and saying, we've just took 20 grand off of X, Mr. X.
To take you out?
Yeah.
How much would they say? How much would you like?
I fucking laugh. It was funny. It was funny, but the fact that they came back and told me in the first place was crucial enough, because they knew if I found out that this plot existed, then I would act on it.
Paul Ferris is determined to stay out of jail and claims to have reinvented himself as a legitimate businessman. His chosen career, consultant for the private security industry, has raised many eyebrows. His reputation as Glasgow's most feared gangster appears to be an advantage in this line of work. Unconvinced by his career change, the police have maintained their surveillance on Paul Ferris.
I made a declaration when I was freed for prison. I was going straight. A lot of people were laughing and joking with regards to that.
And have you gone straight, black and white straight, or have you gone straight grey?
I don't think anybody can ever actually turn around and say they can go absolutely straight, because I've still got friends that are criminals, you know, and people who are absolutely straight don't ever have these sort of associates in mind. I would never give up that friendship. So, in a way, there is still a grey area, yeah.
What do the police think you're up to at the moment? Do they think that you're... What do they think?
Oh, everything. Everything.
Suspicion also surrounds Paul Ferris's associate, Mark Clinton. Since walking for McPhee's murder, he has been involved in a number of violent incidents. And now the police want to talk to him, this time about drugs.
They're saying they found a substantial amount of drugs in my brother's and his wife's house, but they've no charged his wife or him. They're saying it was me, and it's not my house. I don't know how they can work that one out. I'm not a householder. I've no right keys for the house. So how can they tell right away that it's mine? Surely they must need to do tests for like, DNA and all that.
Are they after you then?
Most definitely. The advice I've been given is to go.
Are you going to take that advice?
Definitely. As I said earlier on, I'm not going to be allowed to live in this city anyway. But this is just the icing on the cake. The proof in the pudding, more or less.
Let them carry on regardless.
Despite mounting pressure from the police and the underworld, Mark Clinton couldn't resist a farewell drink in town.
Just to not see you're setting up right down there. I just got to meet some of my mates and get a cut of shandies.
Across the state, the bandits fly, victims scream, gangsters die, and sirens. In the night, an armored Tarzan dynamite. Peter is on the mob, and the FBI is on the job, and now the headlines say, Louis Bonata's on trial today. Now there's no lights on the Christmas tree.
Clinton ended the night at Glasgow's newest strip club, Legs & Co. At 3:20 a.m. on Sunday morning, Clinton was once again involved in violence. He was left bleeding and unconscious on the pavement.
The baby's crying, they're crying, baby, tonight they're gonna fry Big Louie tonight.
Clinton was rushed to casualty in an ambulance. His brother feared the worst. He was in a coma.
Underneath that one.
Is the situation getting worse, or are there going to be more deaths?
I think, to be honest and fair on it, I don't know. The indications aren't looking too clever. There are still probably a few old scores to get settled, and then those old scores, if they do get settled, there'll be other ones to settle. So it's a never-ending loop.
Oh, Father, oh, Father.
After 3 days in hospital, Mark Clinton, the indestructible henchman, is back on the streets. Tam, the licensee McGraw, was finally convicted by a Scottish court for drink driving. It's understood he's now spending more time in his villa in Tenerife. For the first time, Paul Ferris seems to be in a position to inherit the crown he was groomed for as a young man. A crown that fits well, but one, he protests, he has no interest in. In January 2005, Paul Ferris signed a six-figure movie deal. Robert Carlyle is tipped to play the wee man in the story of his life.
Real-life crime investigations from American police files next tonight in Arrest and Trial.